April 19th, 1995, 9:02 a.m. In a single moment, the world changed for Oklahoma City. A massive explosion rips through the heart of the city. 168 lives gone in seconds. At first, no one understood what had happened. An accident, a gas leak, or something far more sinister. But what if I told you, while the city was still burning, the man responsible was already in police custody? No nationwide manhunt, no dramatic chase, just a routine traffic stop, a missing license plate, a suspicious driver, and a decision that would change everything. This is the story of how human intuition, attention to detail, and one small moment unraveled one of the deadliest attacks in American history, the capture of Timothy McVeigh and the 90-minute mistake that gave him away. Already in custody, in the seconds after the blast, silence gave way to chaos. An entire side of a federal building gone, hundreds injured, families shattered, a city in shock. First responders didn't wait for answers. They ran toward the destruction, pulling survivors from beneath concrete and steel, racing against time. But as the dust settled, a question echoed across the nation. What could cause this level of devastation in the heart of Oklahoma City? Was it an accident, a gas explosion, or something far more deliberate? Within minutes, federal agents were on the scene, and with every passing second, one possibility became harder to ignore. This wasn't an accident. This was an attack. But if it was an attack, who could have done this? No one knew it yet. But the biggest clue was already miles away, sitting in a patrol car, just 90 minutes after the explosion. Miles away from the devastation in Oklahoma City, on a quiet stretch of highway, an Oklahoma State trooper was doing what he had done countless times before, watching the road, looking for anything out of place. And then he saw it, something small, a missing license plate. In any other moment, it might have meant nothing. But that day, it meant everything. The driver complied, no sudden moves, no attempt to flee, but something felt off. A routine stop was about to become something far more significant. The trooper approached carefully, unaware of who he was dealing with. Then, he saw it, a concealed weapon. In seconds, the situation changed. The driver was arrested, charged with a weapons violation. Nothing more, nothing less. At that moment, there was no connection to the explosion, no suspicion, no alarm. But what no one realized was that sitting behind those bars was the man responsible for the deadliest act of domestic terror in American history. And the clock was ticking. Who was he? The man now sitting quietly in a jail cell, while an entire nation searched for answers. To the outside world, he didn't stand out. No powerful position, no vast network, just an ordinary life. But beneath the surface, something was forming, a growing sense of anger, distrust, alienation, not loud, not obvious, but steady. He would later join the military, a place where discipline, structure, and purpose are everything. But for him, it didn't become a solution. It became a turning point. After leaving, the distance between him and the world around him only grew. Isolation has a way of amplifying thoughts, turning ideas into beliefs, and beliefs into convictions. Over time, those convictions hardened, not built overnight, but slowly, piece by piece. Looking back, there were signs, patterns of thinking, a growing sense of grievance, a belief that extreme action was justified. But at the time, they didn't stand out enough to stop what was coming. And now, he sat in silence, unknown, unrecognized, unconnected, to the devastation he had just caused. Because understanding who he was only raised a bigger question. How does one individual carry out something this massive, this calculated, this destructive, without being detected, without being stopped? But none of this explained one thing. How did he pull off such a massive attack without anyone noticing? This wasn't random. This was calculated, engineered, deliberate. What happened in Oklahoma City wasn't a moment of impulse. It was the result of planning, days, weeks, even months, every movement, every decision serving a single objective. At the center of it all, a rental truck, ordinary, unremarkable, the kind no one would look at twice. And that was the point. The timing, precise. The location, intentional. Nothing left to chance. In a matter of minutes, the plan moved from preparation into execution. The device itself, it was built using widely available materials. But it wasn't the materials. It was the intent and the design that made it devastating. What followed was destruction on a scale few could have imagined. And that's what made this so terrifying. Not just the damage, but the realization that something so complex, it could be carried out by someone hiding in plain sight. But even the most carefully constructed plan can leave something behind. A fragment, a number, a clue, and that single clue was about to unravel everything. Within minutes, this was no longer just a rescue operation. It became a full-scale federal investigation. Agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives descended on the site, each with one mission: find out who did this and whether it was over. The scene was overwhelming. Twisted metal, collapsed concrete, fragments scattered across blocks. Every piece could be evidence, or nothing at all. Time was critical, because in moments like this, every second matters. But beneath the urgency was something even more unsettling, a question no one could ignore. What if this wasn't the only attack? What if more were coming, and no one knew where? Across the country, fear spread rapidly. Was this terrorism, a coordinated effort, or the beginning of something far worse? Investigators weren't just looking for answers. They were racing against the possibility that another attack could happen at any moment. Thousands of pieces, hundreds of leads, and no clear suspect. Somewhere in the wreckage, then was the key. Something small, something overlooked, something that didn't belong, because even the most destructive plans leave something behind. Authorities faced a terrifying question. Was this just the beginning, or had they just missed their only chance to stop it? In a scene defined by destruction, investigators began searching for something almost impossible, a clue that survived. And then they found it, a fragment from the vehicle that carried the blast. It didn't look like much, burned, twisted, nearly destroyed, but to investigators, it was everything, because hidden within that metal was a number, a vehicle identification number, a VIN. From twisted metal, beat, came a number, and from that number came a name. The number led investigators to a rental agency, a truck rented just days before the attack, under an alias. But aliases don't hide everything, because someone had seen him, a face remembered, details recalled, piece by piece, line by line. The unknown suspect, it began to take shape, and suddenly, the hunt had a face. But what investigators didn't realize yet was that this face was already in their system, already identified, already processed, and already behind bars. With a face now identified, investigators moved quickly, running every lead, checking every record, hoping for a match. And then they found one. But when investigators ran the name, what they discovered stunned everyone. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't running. He was sitting in a jail cell. The man they were searching for, the suspect behind the devastation at the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building, had already been arrested just 90 minutes after the attack. A missing license plate, a routine stop, a weapons charge, all leading to one man. What began as a minor arrest became the breakthrough that solved one of the deadliest attacks in American history. In an instant, the investigation changed from searching to proving, but catching him, it was only the beginning, because now they needed to understand how it all came together. Already arrested in the end, this wasn't just a story about destruction, it was a story about discovery. A fragment of metal, a number hidden in the wreckage, a memory recalled, a face drawn, a record checked. Individually, they meant little, but together, they told the whole story. No single person solved it alone. It took coordination, communication, and trust between agencies, working against the clock in order to connect the dots. But what truly changed everything were the small decisions, the moments that seemed insignificant until they weren't. A trooper on a quiet highway, not chasing a suspect, not responding to an attack, just doing his job. Noticing something small that others might have ignored. Not satellites, not advanced technology, but human awareness, attention to detail, and instinct brought him down. In a world increasingly driven by machines, this case proves something timeless, that the most powerful tool is still the human mind, because even in the face of unimaginable tragedy, clarity can emerge from the smallest details. And sometimes, the difference between chaos and justice is one person paying attention. When the dust finally settled, the impact was far greater than one building. It was felt across a city, across a nation, and far beyond. For many, it was a moment that changed everything. A reminder that even in places meant to feel safe, a tragedy could strike without warning. In the years that followed, security measures were redefined, barriers were raised, protocols strengthened, awareness heightened, all shaped by the lessons of that day. But beyond policy and protection, there was something deeper: loss, grief, and memories that would never fade. 168 lives, each with a story, each deeply missed. And in the silence that followed, a nation began to reflect, not just on what was lost, but on what must never be forgotten. Because the legacy of that day is not only found in tragedy, but in how we choose to remember it. In a world of growing complexity, we often look to technology for answers. We build systems, we design machines, we create tools to protect us. But sometimes the most powerful tool is still the human mind, the ability to notice, to question, to connect what others might miss. That is where true ingenuity lives. The question is, how many threats today are hiding within plain sight? Subscribe for more real stories of human ingenuity. Comment below, what do you think makes the biggest difference? Technology or human awareness? And share this with someone who believes that small decisions can change everything. Human ingenuity.